FanDuel's getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus points if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is almost here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/betbig to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. Or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit CPG.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit MDGamblingHelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit GamblingHelpLineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPENY in New York.
For 100 years, Berger Chevrolet has been part of the West Michigan community, proudly serving your automotive needs since 1925. Whether you're buying a new vehicle or scheduling vehicle service, need replacement parts or collision repair, the team at Berger is here for you. Come to Berger and find out why Chevrolet is West Michigan's top-selling brand. Visit us at the corner of 28th Street and Breton Road in Grand Rapids. Built on a century of trust, it's always better at Berger. Start shopping online at BergerChevy.com.
It's time for the Steve and Kyle podcast. With Kyle.
God, that menace of Shike is probably sitting at home going, ooh, the mid's a little bit off.
Did you see Shike posted a picture? Dan Shike, big fan of this podcast. The feeling is not reciprocated.
No, God almighty. Just stealing money from poor musicians constantly to go turn some knob.
And Steve.
I guess I could plan a trip across the state for no reason, just so I can listen for a couple more hours. I mean, my family doesn't need me at home. I gotta listen to murder mysteries.
I really do appreciate that, and this has been a ton of fun. I was kind of nervous at first, but you guys are very easy to talk to.
Yeah, Ben, we are the least professional people you'll ever speak to.
Honestly.
Live on tape from APS 3 point whatever, it's the Steve and Kyle podcast.
Thank you, Melissa. Greatly appreciated.
Well, that was a joy last week. I enjoyed talking to somebody different.
Talking to Ben?
Yeah, had some nice comments regarding that interview, Steve, that we did. That's always very pleasant to read because we're in a new spot there. Now, you're more proxy to interviews when those happen on the side gig, right? You're, for the most part, you're not directly involved, right?
I don't really. It's rare that I will
chime in,
even speak up.
So it's a little bit of a new item. So to hear positive feedback on our interview with Ben. Podcast algorithm last week was very nice to hear. So.
Yeah, if you missed it, go back, listen to it. It was a fun interview. Ben was a good guy to talk to. Lots of insight on that whole, just a ridiculous story.
Yeah,
I mean, just the ineptitude on so many levels of people having information that they need or that could be useful to them and just ignoring it. Honestly, I haven't listened to the latest episode though. I'm now a week behind on that, so I'm gonna have to listen to that this weekend.
Just some genuinely chilling audio in that podcast when got his hands on the confession audio and video of this
crazy
confessed serial murderer. So please go back if you didn't check that out. Our interview with Ben Kubrick from the podcast algorithm last week.
Yeah, that podcast is drops on Tuesdays. I think there's 6 episodes of it.
Yeah, so there's a handful, but they're short. Yeah, they go quick, and that's the key. You're not You know, they're not marathons, which that seems to be the thing with these serialized stories, I guess, is that they're shorter.
Yeah, I like that too, because for me, 40 minutes is the sweet spot, because that is to work and home from work. It's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back. I can listen to half of it on the way into work, listen to the other half on the way home from work, and it's perfect. I love that.
It's, different wheelhouse. And that's, kind of what we've been doing this for 5 years, Steve, which is one, absurd to think about.
Yeah.
I had somebody at my work. I've made jokes that I'm going to start a podcast about just inane stuff. I was going to start a podcast called Apples to Apples, where I rank apples on a weekly basis.
Okay.
Kind of a mix of
What's
my
your
enjoyment of apples.
I mean, Honeycrisp has got to be the number one seed.
Steve,
I swear to God, if you
asked.
say Red Delicious.
I'm glad you asked. My number one. And if I remember my top three correctly. Should I go 3-1, actually?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. Makes sense.
Wait, hold on. Do we have like a fanfare sound?
Yeah,
effect
did you load it on there?
I don't know.
Yeah. That doesn't,
hold on. Oh, there we go.
That would be like if one surprises you.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Steve, my number 3. The Golden Delicious.
Oh, Golden Delicious. Yeah. I haven't had a Golden Delicious in ages.
A nice hearty green, not as crunchy as your run-of-the-mill apple. I really enjoy that flavor. It's not over the top like a lot of apples will get you. A delightful apple. It's not going to be in a lot of people's top 3.
No.
Holds a special place in my heart. Again, number 3, the Golden Delicious.
Okay.
Number 2.
Now, just to be clear, we have 2 sound effects on this new mixer. That's it.
Our options are rather unlimited.
Yeah.
It seems, between these 2. Just a range of emotions can be portrayed with these 2.
Uh-huh. All right.
The number 2 apple, Steve. The Honeycrisp.
Oh, there we go. Look, top 3 for Honeycrisp. That's all I care about.
So it's a valid argument that when I was talking about this with a coworker, the Honeycrisp is a one-trick pony. You can't use the Honeycrisp for baking. The Honeycrisp is more of an eating apple, which I understand.
More tart.
But I'm less interested in baking apples than I am eating apples.
I don't know, man. An apple pie it's hard to beat a warm apple pie with a nice scoop of vanilla ice cream on top of it.
But do you make your own apple pie, Steve, or are you buying the apple pie?
I don't think I've ever made my own.
And that's the thing. I don't care because I'm not making it, so I don't really care if the Honeycrisp is good for it, because whatever the people or the mass production companies use to make those pies, keep doing what you're doing.
Who am I to think that I could make a better pie than Sara Lee? Sara Lee's been pumping out pies for, 100 years?
Yeah, that's right. Steve and Kyle are going to fly in the face of 100 years of Sara Lee pie history. Maybe I'll put that on the poll. Who could make a better pie, Steve and Kyle or Sara Lee?
Oh, Sara Lee. I'm 100% on her side.
I'll tag them, too.
You better vote Sara Lee.
The
right.
Honeycrisp, though. I mean, the one thing I get tired of with the Honeycrisp is every year I feel like it's closer and closer to like $4 per apple.
They are a bit pricey.
They are the most finicky apple to grow, and I think apple growers hate them because they are so difficult to grow, but they're so popular that they have to grow them.
When I did Apple Day like a month and a half ago, when I was when I hit my plateau on the diet, I did 5 Honeycrisp apples that day. And sure, it cost me like $9, but it was a sound investment. I ate the entire day for $9. That's pretty good. Pretty good deal. I love the Honeycrisp. Now, before you reveal your number 1 apple here on Applecast.
This is apples to apples.
Apples to
Thank
apples.
you.
Right. Of course. Silly.
If you want to sound dumb, call it Applecast.
You could do a hashtag Applecast, maybe. If you're posting about it.
Yeah.
Are you just grab the apple and dive right in, or are you slicing it? Because I used to be a dive right in kind of guy, but lately, slicing it, I feel like the apple yield is so much higher. I get so much less waste.
Sure.
Because you know how when you bite into it, inevitably it kind of has like that shape where there's still a bit on the top, still a bit on the bottom, and then the middle is all cored out from eating it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, I like cutting it because then I can really precisely cut out the core, maximizing the apple.
Sorry, I'm putting that on the poll as well. How do you eat your apples? Do you dive right in or slice it?
Okay. And I don't do those.
You don't have a slicer. You're manually slicing.
I don't because they're very useful. They're a wonderful gadget.
Absolutely.
But it's a one size fits all.
Yes.
And in many cases, that's not ideal because
general,
some of those Honeycrisps are kind of small.
Yep.
You
have some apple waste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I am all about maximizing the apple.
Sure. Here's the thing with that you don't really care about when you're younger, and you shouldn't really care about it when even older. It doesn't terribly matter, but there's something to be said about getting, like you talked about, to that weird spot in the apple where it feels like your top lips wrapped around a side, and then you're like trying to unhinge your bottom jaw to then like
do an underbite motion.
Yeah. You get to a weird spot.
And then, God forbid, if I get a little piece of that core, it ruins the whole bite.
Is there any other food that goes from good to horrific that quickly? Like, I mean, it's like a retaining wall. Hey, flavors on this side. The garbage is right here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, it's really no surprise though that horses munch it all down.
Yeah,
just the dumbest animal.
All right, so with that being said.
Steve, my number one apple. The Cosmic Crisp.
I don't know, that I've ever heard of that.
Oh,
well, I know for a fact I've never had one.
Steve.
Can I just get them at the store?
You can. Let me tell you about the Cosmic Crisp. This is a new apple on the scene, okay? So this is a Washington exclusive. This is part of, they breed.
State or D.C.?
State. I don't know if, is Washington, D.C. known for apples? They got apple trees there?
Oh, yeah, tons.
A lot of apple trees? Yeah. Don't worry. It'll be on the poll as well. Are there apple trees? And what is Washington, D.C. known for their apples?
Absolutely. You heard it here first.
This is part of a breeding program, tree breeding program.
Treating.
That's what they call it. In the state of Washington, that they spent, honestly, billions of dollars on.
The Cosmic Crisp.
Cosmic Crisp. Okay. And so the Cosmic Crisp is a blend, and it is I'm
assuming Honeycrisp is where
Honeycrisp is part of it.
Where does the Cosmic come from?
I got to read it for you. I thought I had it for you. Enterprise and Honeycrisp variety apple. So what they've done is they've taken the crunch of the Honeycrisp and that flavor that everybody wants with the Honeycrisp apple, but they've made it so that they can grow them a lot more easily and that they last longer. So ideally they don't have this, well, Sarah, we washed out 85% of our apple crop this year, so they're this expensive. These apples weren't released until 2019, Steve.
Wow.
They started breeding them in 1997. It was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I forget the magazine or newspaper. It was one of the big ones, whether it be the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, whatever. They had like a multiple 1,000-word piece about this apple and how much the Cosmic Crisp. If you haven't, I highly recommend checking it out at your store. Oh, I've had plenty.
Where are you getting them from?
You can get them at the store.
Just in a bag at the store.
You can get a bag, or they'll be loose. They're very popular, but they're so worth your time, Steve.
So the two stores that are close to us, normal thing to have them in stock.
Absolutely. There should be no reason you can't find yourself.
You want to push this interview back 20 minutes or so?
And just run to the store together. Just leave the podcast. Do we have a music bed that's like 25 minutes long?
Yeah, well, I'll just put something on loop like we did with the intro last week.
That's right. Hey, you fixed it.
Yeah.
Hey, things I don't even notice behind the scenes.
Yeah, fixed it all. We are good. Granted, we don't know if this is actually recording this week, but
no. We'll find that out after the fact. If there's a video posted of Steve and Kyle sobbing because nothing posted, you'll know it didn't work.
Yeah.
I mentioned last week, I'm very excited for this.
This is going to be a fun one.
Because it's so weird to call something like this fun and that I'm looking forward to it, because what we're going to discuss is such a weird scenario.
It's a very sad story.
So this morning, we're going to be talking to, hopefully our new friend, John Walczak. Now, John has released 2 seasons of kind of investigative journalism style podcasting.
Yeah.
The first season was called Missing in Alaska, regarding the 1972 plane disappearance. You can't even call it a plane crash because no evidence of this airplane was ever found in Alaska with congressmen on it.
Mm-hmm.
That has never been solved, and that's a fascinating tale.
Yeah.
And his most recent efforts right now have revolved around somebody who went missing on 9/11. And that's the title of season 2 of this podcast. It's called Missing on 9/11, which is kind of, I can't say that's a lie, but this is about a story of a woman who actually went missing on 9/10.
Sneha Phillip?
Sneha and Phillip. Dr. Sneha Phillip went missing in New York City, last seen around 5 or 6 p.m. on September 10th, feet away from the World Trade Center.
Right. She lived, I think he said 900 feet from,
yes.
the towers.
In a lot of the famous 9/11 footage that you see either on the news or on YouTube, wherever it is, you can see the apartment building that she and her husband lived in.
So, and the crazy thing that makes this story so unique is that it's not a story of somebody who was in the towers on 9/11.
Right. There's no evidence
that it is known. The strange thing is that she didn't come home the night before. So technically she hasn't been seen since 9/10. Your mind makes the connection. Well, she lived 1,000 feet from ground zero. She probably ended up somehow in the towers when they fell, but there's so much more to the story than that. And that's what made me listen to 6 episodes of the podcast in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, this is exciting for me. I really, really enjoyed Missing in Alaska. I've really enjoyed Missing on 9/11 so far. I have a lot of questions for John. There's so much to this process, and I'm stunned. I wouldn't know where to start, Steve, on the information gathering portion of the 2 cases he's talked about.
That's one of my first. I don't even know if it's a question for him, but just basically to say, how? What do you do?
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, I guess it is a question. How do you even start? What's the first thing you do? You sit down with a pen and you're like, all right, I'm going to investigate this.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that moment is kind of the OS I give up moment, because you're talking about a case surrounded by one of the largest news stories in a lot of people's lifetimes.
Sure.
Information.
Very sensitive topic.
Yes. Information quite literally buried under the Twin Towers that possibly pertains to this case. So, a lot of questions for John Walczak. Let's talk to him, Steve, if we can get him on the line.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, is this John?
Yes, yeah, the one and only.
How are you, John? It's the Steve and Kyle podcast.
I'm doing well. I have some sludgy coffee, so I'm good enough for the morning.
Dude, your podcast has, it's kind of been all-encompassing for me for the last 24 hours or so. I've listened to the first 6 or 7 episodes, and it's so interesting. So interesting.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let me ask you, John, because one of the things that's overwhelming to me, and we were just talking about this before we got you on, regarding both of these cases you've done, Missing in Alaska, now Missing on 9/11, the information gathering portion of this looks overwhelming from the outside. How do you not just immediately see what you're presented with and say, well, there's no way I can do anything with this. I give up.
Yeah, because I think most people want to know the answer to these 2, mysteries that you're talking about. But 99.9% of us say, man, I'd love to know what happened. Oh, well, someone else will figure it out. What makes you that someone else?
Oh, man. Well, I read probably 2, 3, 4 hours a day, so I like to read. That helps. I'm kind of nerdy with archives, as you heard from the show.
Yes.
So it's fun to dig through stuff. I think you just have to have a good eye for it. But I don't know, it's just a driving curiosity. But in terms of the amount of information, you hit it completely. You got it. The production of these shows, it's really exhausting. We have a 5-6 person team, but I'd say probably 90% of the time is spent on research. Like I was thinking about this earlier. If we do a third season, I'd really like to focus more on just, the writing and the narrative arc and some of that, because I feel like we put so much into the reporting on the ground and into the research that that's I basically, honestly, my honest answer, I just rely on caffeine.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to, because once you commit to it and once you get those first couple hours of research in, then it probably sinks in like, all right, I'm kind of invested now, and I have to keep trying to find this, needle in the haystack, or whatever you want to call it, piece of information that's going to connect all these dots.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you go through thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of information, and, I mean, there might be one line that matters. So you might spend a week going through documents, but the one line actually, or a name. So like for Missing in Alaska, for example, the main story arc, what we really uncovered about the bombing allegation, that was something that came to me because I read about somebody in an obscure place mentioned once. I reached out to them. They put me in contact with somebody else, and then that person told me about the allegation. So it's kind of, they're such complex cases that if you don't do that, you're not going to find anything new. But like you said, it's very exhausting, and yeah, you're driven. I mean, it's all consuming for a long time. People don't see the amount of work that goes into these shows, not just the research, but also on the production side. We have really amazing producers. But that's what I end up. I find such like odd, bizarre little tidbits. I like throwing them into the shows, but that's just through literally thousands of pages of reading.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the exhaustive nature of the research and the production level of what you do, because I'm glad. I feel like I need to berate you. You put yourself behind an 8-ball, John. You picked cases from 50 years ago in the plane crash for Missing in Alaska, and then you picked a case surrounding one of the largest international stories of most people's lifetimes in 9/11. Yeah. Have you ever thought about, season 3? I'm going to give myself a layup. I'm going to find one from 6 months ago that's fresh in everybody's mind.
My neighbor's dog Scruffy ran away.
Yeah.
Where is he?
Missing on Elm Street, John. That's what season 3 needs to be.
Honestly, it's something I've thought about. So like, I read so much that over the years, I've built this like 2 or 3 page list of stories that just really fascinate me, and I always return to that when I'm thinking about what to do as a full-length show. And it's pretty rare that something really jumps out to me that much. But I'll tell you what I have considered is something on a nice tropical island.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if iHeart will sign off on Missing in the South Pacific, but
right.
Yeah, look for what is it, MH370, the Malaysian airline.
The Maldives will be a nice place to go base myself for the next year.
That's hilarious. So what was it about this? Like, do you remember when you first heard the story of Sneha Phillip and said, "Oh, that sounds like it could be a good, a good story, or a good, at least something for you to investigate a little bit further before committing to it"? Like, what was it about this story?
I mean, it's such a fascinating story, and these stories are really interesting because they're difficult. I mean, the thing about our show is I think we frustrate people sometimes, because sometimes we find really incredible information, and a lot of it comes from people who listen to the show, but other times we don't, and we're honest about it. So, we tackle these really difficult cases basically in real time. And I mean, honestly, I'm still scripting this show. So versus, I think there's kind of a appetite for something in between, really like elitist, heady, encyclopedia type stuff and like garbage reality TV. There's a middle space, and I don't really think many people fill it. And I think the podcast space fills it pretty well, because of the format, because it gives you the time to dig in. And I mean, with this case in particular, 9/11's always interested me. I was, you heard me say on the show, but I turned 13 3 days before 9/11. Yeah. So I really came of age right after 9/11, and during anthrax and the Bush years and Iraq. And Katrina and the financial collapse and everything. And so 9/11 had a big personal impact on me. As far as Sneha, I remember reading about her maybe like 15 years ago, and she stuck with me all this time. She's such an interesting character, and she's someone that when I was thinking, okay, well, what do I do for season 2? It's such a fascinating story. I don't know. She's haunted me for a long time.
To say that this story has a lot of layers would be an understatement in terms of Sneha's personal life, her work life, surrounding 9/11, living feet away from the World Trade Center. Are there any of those items that you didn't either know about or weren't fully aware of going into this? I mean, there's some definite tension, I guess is the term I'll use, when you read and hear a lot about her ex-husband and the family and how they reacted after all of this happened. Was there anything of that you had no idea about going in, that you're like, oh no, this is a whole nother branch to this tree that I now have to dive into?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's part of the fun of the show and the research for me. If I knew everything going in, I wouldn't have to do the research, but it's digging through 1,000 pages of court transcripts and seeing a tiny detail about, was she wearing contacts or glasses? Why was there dirt in the shower weeks later when she had been repotting plants? Like, did so-and-so actually come home? Did somebody tell the truth about when the last time that they saw her, because they told multiple different stories to different people? So, yeah, I mean, there was a ton of new stuff. In terms of how difficult it was, I mean, it was really, really hard. I mean, it's a very tough case. It's a case where very few people wanted to speak, so we really had to hunt people down. And then in terms of the logistics versus Michigan, Alaska, we were on the ground in Manhattan in January and earlier this year, so at the height of COVID. So that just added another layer of complexity to the reporting. But yeah, I mean, I still, and the main thing though is we asked for people's help. And I felt like with Michigan, Alaska, I didn't want it to seem like a gimmick. And it really wasn't. I was amazed always at the level of detail that people notice in the show and that they bring to the show. Because, for example, like I had looked for probably 8 years for these ham operators who heard this mysterious radio communication the day the plane disappeared for season 1. And I couldn't find any of them. I thought they were all dead. And then it was a couple listening to the show in Wyoming, I think, and they're like, that name that he mentioned, is that, old Joe who worked on our house? And it was. And so they found this guy in a retirement home in Wyoming. So I think that's the thing. I push as far as I can personally, and we can as a team. And then we legitimately turn it over to the audience. And I've been surprised how helpful everybody's been.
I was just going to ask you, because I love how interactive the podcast is, where you at the end of every episode, you assign homework, but you also talk about, like, midway through the podcast, you'll say, all right, pause, go to YouTube, type in this, type in that, to pull up specific videos so a listener can really visualize exactly what you're talking about. But I was going to ask you, with that homework, how effective is it? It seems like you just answered my question, though. Like, you get some really good leads from your tip line and from the email.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I will say it was so effective with season 1 that I made the homework assignments for season 2 extremely specific, and we still do.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Did you work at? I believe one of the ones where you asked, "Did you work at the department store that she was last seen?" And I thought, if he gets this, you might as well just have him just ask a question like, "Hey, who killed JFK?" Because somebody will send in the tip the following week.
Like, everybody knows that was old Bob.
Yeah, it's interesting. So even though this season they're much more specific, it's because we got such a flood of responses last time. It was I mostly try to respond either personally or have one of our producers respond to everybody, because I really appreciate everybody who listens. But it was so effective last time that I was like, man, I got to make this really specific this time. And we still get such a flood of contacts. So for example, yeah, like you said, you're talking about the department store Century 21. Another example, so there was a lead of maybe she went to Victoria's Secret or Jones, New York after Century 21. So one of the things I asked, like, did you work in the security department of Victoria's Secret in 2001? And it's amazing because I have heard from people. And one other thing I asked, which was just an episode or two ago, was, do you know anyone who faked their own death? And I've already heard from two people who actually have told me these really compelling, fascinating stories that have nothing to do with this particular show, but it's so interesting. And so the fact that I can put out a question like, do you know anyone who's faked your own death, or have you faked your own death? And that's like, oh, yeah, of course, like, that's ridiculously specific. And we get these, I was like, we're actually getting answers from people. So, it's worked out really well. And I feel like at a certain point, I've done as much as I can with the story, and I kind of turn it over to the audience.
The one thing that I had to keep reminding myself while I was listening to the podcast is that I had to listen to it with my 2001 ears on, not my 2021 ears on, because I kept thinking like, man, if this happened today, I feel like it would be so much easier to solve, because we're so much more connected, and they'd be able to pull up like, oh yeah, well, Sneha was on her iPhone while she was at Starbucks on the corner of 54th and 8th at this time. But it was very strange to be, even though it was only 20 years ago, to try and listen to it with those ears.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the fascinating things about this story and about 9/11 in particular, is that it was such a turning point in so many ways. So obviously 9/11 was a turning point, but in terms of technology, I mean, I think about, like you said, even in terms of 9/11 generally, not just this case, what would our view into 9/11 be had it happened 5 years later?
Oh, it'd be insanely different. It would be so much different.
If the cell towers didn't go down, you'd have people posting from the upper levels of the towers. Like, there's such a limited photographic record from inside the towers. I tracked down all the images and all the videos that I could find. It's extremely limited, and it is a really just fascinating thought process to say, well, what would it be like if it happened today? How would we view it in real time? What would the historical record be? And then, like you said, as we go further into the 21st century, you start to run out of these mysteries, because even though this was only 20 years ago, and I'm 32, so I'm young, but I'm becoming a crusty old man slowly. But, I obviously clearly remember 9/11, even though I was a kid. And yeah, I mean, what would we have today? We would have Alexa recorded her at 10:07 a.m. and she logged into Gmail at this time. And so you almost, I don't want to say you lose the wonder of mystery as you move further along into this century, because other people's suffering, I really try hard to empathize with families and not just use people as like pawns for entertainment. But you do lose those mysteries. I mean, that's MH370 was incredible, because the fact that something like that could happen in was it 2014? Yeah. So what would we know now? I mean, another example of that is surveillance footage. So you have a few frames of her at Century 21, and it's really fascinating. But what would you have today? I mean, she'd be caught on somebody's Ring camera. She'd be the detective at the time, and her husband had to sit there for weeks, frame by frame, like looking through this grainy footage for her.
Oh, so it's fascinating. One of the things that I'm so curious about is, how do you brace yourself? How do you prepare yourself to talk to family, friends, people who knew somebody involved in a tragedy like this? It takes a special kind of nuance, John, to get you in the mind frame to do that, I have to imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult. So, I started my career as a print reporter at a newspaper in North Carolina, Asheville Citizen-Times, if anybody is listening, Asheville. So I was a general assignments reporter and a crime reporter, and honestly, I hated it. I had amazing coworkers. I was very blessed to have that job, but part of that job is reaching out to families of crime victims. I remember, and just weird cases too. I remember reaching out to a mother of a kid who was 15 who was killed. I remember I had to interview a man who he had just proposed to a woman, and then she was struck by lightning on a mountaintop and killed. And so I hated doing that stuff. Believe it or not, I despise conflict. I also hate hearing my voice recorded. And
geez, so John, you really picked the wrong career, man.
Yeah, man.
What are you doing?
But I love investigating, and I love hearing people's stories. But no, so well, think about this. So on top of it being families and friends of a possible 9/11 victim, I mean, it's a very complex case. She was a very complicated person, and many of them didn't want to talk. So a lot of them they just don't work with reporters. So you add in on top of the sensitivity to the tragedy, just a level of hostility, which is completely understandable. I would probably feel that way in their shoes. So I try to empathize, but no, I kind of brace myself. It's probably, I I joke on the show, but one of the things I did was really look for her in any kind of photos, videos, any evidence from 9/11, and to be locked away in a little apartment during the COVID death winter, like staring at thousands of images of 9/11, and probably not the best thing for my mental health. But I don't know. I that's the part of it I don't like. I really, really feel for these people, truly. Yeah. I like iHeart as a creative partner because they've always given me that leeway to be, to just see it through as I want. They've never pushed me to manufacture anything or to go in a certain direction. They've just said, do what you feel comfortable with. And if they didn't, I wouldn't work with them, because I wouldn't sell my soul for a podcast.
Right. We're talking to John Walzak. He hosts Missing on 9/11, new episodes Wednesdays from iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. John, you remain really objective throughout the whole podcast, I think. I mean, for the most part, at the beginning, episode 1, you basically set up 4 possible scenarios for what could have happened to Sneha Phillip. A couple of them are pretty quickly eliminated. What do you think happened? Like, if you had to put your money on it, what happened to her? Especially in the time from late on 9/10 to early morning 9/11.
Well, I'll say this. So the immediate reaction, I think, when people don't know much about this case is that, well, of course it's 9/11.
Yeah, like, that's exactly what I thought. When I first heard the commercials for your podcast, I was driving into work one morning and I heard a promo for this, and I thought, well, it's pretty obvious what happened. She died in 9/11.
Yeah, and that's a completely understandable. I mean, that's probably, I don't remember, but that probably was my reaction too. But the first thing to know is that 9/11 is much less likely than it seems. And that's something that I'll get into in a future episode. But if you look at studies of where victims were when they died, if you look at, the idea that there are no witnesses who recall seeing this civilian doctor in a brown dress and sandals 5'2" running into the towers, like it just, if you really dig into it, it doesn't make as much sense as it seems. And certain other things make more sense. So the two that immediately don't make sense to me are suicide because there was no body, and foul play at the hands of a stranger, because a random act of violence at that time, especially where she was in Manhattan, which was very, very safe. The NYPD precinct where she lived had a single non-9/11 murder that year. So those two don't make sense to me at all. As for what makes sense to me, I mean, oh man. I mean, obviously I have thoughts, but I try to leave it to the audience. I think 9/11 makes some level of sense, obviously. The idea that she ran away also makes, I think, a lot more sense than you would initially think. So it's something that's really crazy to think about because of 9/11, but it's something I say in the show, which is take 9/11 out of it. People keep saying, well, how could she do that to her family? How could she just disappear? I mean, thousands and tens of thousands of people do it every single year. There are tens of thousands of families around the country and around the world right now whose loved ones are alive and they don't know where they are. So I don't think that theory is as crazy as people think. The thing that makes her, in this case, interesting is who she was as a person. She was such a fascinating really brilliant by all accounts, artistic, a doctor, just really complicated, very fierce and strong and independent. She seems like someone that you'd want to have a beer with. And that's what makes it really interesting, because when you learn the context of who she was as a person, what was going on in her life, what she was thinking, and then why, for example, 9/11 doesn't make as much sense as you would think, you start to let your mind wander. But I'll also say this: if I legitimately thought 9/11 was 100% the answer, I wouldn't manufacture a show out of that. So I really don't know. And I've looked at it now for very heavily for a year or so. That's one of the things I like to do, is just leave it up to people, because, some of the feedback that I got for Alaska before we launched, I worked with iHeart, was what's the ending? What's the ending? What's the ending? Like, nobody wants to listen to a show unless you have a definitive
right.
ending.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you can get very close, right? So you can say, we found this is much less likely, this is very possible. And then I thought that feedback was crap, because people love stories without endings. That's just the story. Yeah. Those are the stories that they love the most. And, I don't think I'm any smarter than the audience. I think people are really, really intelligent, and people come to different conclusions.
How do you balance your skepticism? And I am not putting words or thoughts into your mouth or brain. For me, though, listening, I get this sense, this uncomfortable feeling whenever I think about the interactions with Sneha's brother. You mention it multiple times, how some of his statements don't line up.
Oh, the one that he gave to the news was completely fabricated.
Right. And then you mention how he denies talking to the police, yet there's NYPD records saying that he did talk to the police. Have you been more nervous going into an interview that, was not being recorded? Have you been as nervous going into one of those?
I do those very rarely. So typically I wouldn't do it, but he was a very important interview to get.
Yeah.
I'm not nervous for my physical safety.
Sure.
I'm nervous to be fair. I couldn't live with myself if I just took someone whose sister disappeared and twisted it in a way that I think unscrupulous other people sometimes do. So I think the biggest thing is really to think it through in my head and say, am I missing something? Like, I'm completely fine with pointing out inconsistencies and saying, this person said this, but it doesn't make sense, or they admitted that they lied, but is there a reason? Or, one thing that you deal with both of these shows are people's memories. So could it just be that they legitimately don't remember? And I think you kind of weigh, the amount of time and what it is you're asking them about. But yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know. I mean, it's nerve wracking to meet new people. This was like the interview with John. I mean, it was at a cafe north of New York during like the height of COVID. I wasn't really going out too much. I mean, it was thousands of people dying every day. It was a very grim winter day, but it's tough because, one of the things with this show. So on one hand, there are all these inconsistencies, and you definitely have, I think, a duty to ask about them. But also I really want to portray Sneha and people in other shows too, as people, as I tell that to the families, and it's really true. I mean, I wish I could play home video of her. I wish I had more. I try really hard. And that's part of what makes it interesting, is she's this unknown, complex character, and you're really trying to understand her, because to get to the answer, you have to understand her. But I try to just be fair, but at the same time call bull. Right. So I'm very, very, very careful with how I ask questions, and I'm also extremely careful with how I tell the story. One of the things that I really ask our producers when we look at scripts together is rip it apart. We have people on our team who are usually skeptics and people who take different approaches, and I really appreciate having the scripts before we air or record ripped to shreds, because sometimes I miss things sometimes, but together as a team we usually do a good job.
It's funny, the way I think about it, John, is in the most recent Avengers movie, there's an iconic scene where Doctor Strange holds up one finger and he says, 1 out of 14,000 scenarios does this go well. I look at that as you walking in to talk to the brother of somebody who went missing on September 10th or September 11th. There's not many scenarios there where you can come out winning. It's going to be, if anything goes sideways, who's going to point the finger at a relative of somebody who presumably passed away on 9/10 or 9/11, and he can just sit there and say, he was poking and prodding into the personal life of somebody who died. Mm-hmm. And there you are. There's John Walzak. John Walzak, the dickhead. There he is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's completely fair. And you know what? It's fair to hear that from anybody, because if you're going to go at one of these stories and, like you said, it's somebody who presumably died on 9/10 or 9/11, and you're going to dig into their life, well, what's the purpose? What's the reason? And that's getting at, if I really purely fully thought 9/11 was the answer, I wouldn't manufacture doubt. I just wouldn't have done the story. Yeah. So I think the other way to look at it is there are very serious people in this case, detectives, judges, who have really serious doubts. Some of them spoke to me on the record. Some of them spoke to me off the record. But it's not just me. And so I think if you look at, well, we're trying to figure out what happened to Sneha. There's a genuine, real question. What happened to her? What could be a likely scenario? And I think, for example, to rule out the idea of violence, random violence, you start to say, well, okay, 2 or 3 possible scenarios. And you think, well, even if you think 9/11 is the likeliest scenario, one of the things with both of these shows is that there was a very likely scenario. For the first one, it was bad weather. For the second, it was 9/11. And because there were really likely answers, just obvious, immediate answers, there was a lot of investigative work that wasn't done that in any other case would be done. Yeah. And so I think if there is an alternative explanation for her disappearance, I think the NYPD detective did the best that he could given the circumstances. But yeah, and in terms of just like digging into somebody's personal life, what needs to be included? I learn a ton that I don't put into the shows, and I ask myself, like, do you need to include this? Does all this nitty gritty detail about somebody's sex life need to go in? I mean, people would be interested in it, but yeah, it would be a dick thing to do. So I try to be empathetic. I mean, I know it sounds cliche and stupid, but it's true.
Well, his name is John Walzak. He hosts Missing in Alaska. He also hosts Missing on 9/11, which we're talking about right now. New episodes available on Wednesdays. John, how many more episodes will there be in this season?
So we're planning on 10 main and at least 2 bonus, but okay. I think for the first one we planned on 10 and ended up with 17. So
right. What does John Walzak do? You spend so much time, and you mentioned you've been working on this one for the better part of a year. What do you do to wind down? I mean, this seems like it's so consuming, and you now have learned so much about the life of someone that honestly you've never heard her voice. You've never seen video of her, the way she walks, nothing. You're so all consumed. What do you do when you're like, okay, it's time to put the paperwork down? What is John doing on a random night when he's done working or researching?
Honest answer, like I don't stop for like a year and then I just collapse at the end. So it's usually like get through, like have the coffee sludge, So I'm trying to finish this one, and then at the end of this one, I'm renting a house with friends at the beach in North Carolina. But I try to take just time where I just crash at the end of the day. I mean, honestly, naps are underrated. And
they are. Yeah, they are. They're totally underrated. I take them all the time.
Yeah, we'll put that on the poll for us this week too on our social media pages. John, are naps underrated? Because that's a guarantee.
Yeah. I'm very blessed to do this. I've only done this for 2 years though. So, I mean, before that, I've had normal jobs. I mean, I've worked everything from a dog kennel to CBS to movie extra to all kind of journalism, all kinds of stuff. So I'll do this as long as they'll have me, and then you'll look for me at the local soup kitchen.
Right.
So.
Are your friends? Do your friends just hate you though? I mean, because you said this consumed you for a year, and now you're going to go rent a house with them when you're finally done with it. But are they just calling like, hey, John, what's going on your, how you doing this Saturday? And you just go into this long rambling note about Sneha Phillip that they don't want to hear again.
Yeah, especially this year with COVID. I'm like, what a great topic. Everybody's coming out of COVID. It's the summer. It's like, July 4th, we're free. And then I'm like, 9/11.
Yeah. Hey, guys, you heard this fun story?
Hey, guys, want to hear about the sexual harassment claims against this? You're like, no, John, no.
John, one more question before we let you go. Now that life is returning to normal, how good are you at Best Fiends?
Oh, man. Woo, man. I collect all the cute and colorful characters. I'll leave it at that.
Has it gotten to the point where that ad copy, no, I'm not saying you're reading it live every week or you're not, but that ad copy seared into your brain, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's the one that I hear the most about, is because everything else is kind of just normal. And then that people joke with me about that all the time.
Hey, whatever it allows to keep you doing what it is that you're very, very good at, John. Again, John Walczak, host of Missing on 9/11. New episodes everywhere you get your podcasts on Wednesdays. John, they can find you on Twitter. You have a thread, I believe, of where you're dropping documents and stuff related to the podcast. Where is that they can find you?
It's at John Walczak, which is JONWALCZAK.
Awesome.
Please find him there.
What's the phone number that, in case you have any information on anybody that you've talked about in the podcast?
It's 1-833-NEW-TIPS, or people can email us at tips@iheartmedia.com.
Awesome. John, thank you so much, man. This is this podcast, like I said, it's completely consumed me for the last 24 hours. And once we're done talking to you, I am going to listen to the 2 episodes I haven't listened to yet, and then anxiously await Wednesday for the next episode.
Okay, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
John.
Thanks,
We'd love to talk to you again later on. I have so many questions about your path from the Asheville Citizen-Times to being this full-fledged investigative podcast journalist. That's quite a journey, man.
Yeah. I'd love to talk with you guys again. I always appreciate the attention for the shows, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who listens, really. I love the feedback, and there's somebody out there has the information, so everybody go listen to the show.
Hey, if one of our listeners tips you off, we get full credit, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll have you guys on the show.
Perfect.
Yeah, I want to be right after the Best Fiends read.
Okay. How about you read Best Fiends?
Oh my God, what an honor!
We are not going to let you go back on that offer.
Okay.
Our lawyers will be in touch. John, it's been great. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
See ya. That was a lot of fun.
I love it.
That podcast, man. I'm not just blowing smoke up his ass either. When you first booked this, I had heard the ads for this as I was driving into work one morning. I had also heard the ones for Missing in Alaska, and I was like, man, that sounds really interesting. I never did listen to Missing in Alaska, but now I'm going to go back and do it. But you had sent a text the other day, maybe like on Wednesday, saying, hey, just a reminder to try and listen to an episode or two. And I was like, yep, I had a reminder in my phone for Friday afternoon. Ended up listening to one episode, like half of an episode on the way home from work yesterday. And I was like, oh boy, this is good. Listen to the rest of it yesterday afternoon. And then just went out in the garage. I was cleaning up some stuff last night and kind of getting everything straightened up. Listened to like 3 more episodes. And then I woke up this morning, got up early today so I could listen to 2 more.
Yeah, it's great.
Good.
And he mentioned it briefly, but I feel the same way. Does everybody hates the way they sound, right?
Yeah, I think it's just in my case, I'm just used to not liking the way I sound because it's been 20 years. But yeah, I think that's a fairly common thing.
Because I listened to John, I listened in live. Again, I'm not blowing smoke. I listened to Missing in Alaska. When this came out, I had started my new job in the office where I was listening to a lot of podcasts and stuff. I listened to it weekly as it came out, and I'm so glad he mentioned that story about how a listener tipped him off to the amateur radio operator.
Yeah.
It's such a fascinating saga that it actually worked out for him to be able to talk to that guy. Stunning work by John. Amazing help by the listening audience there. Again, Missing in Alaska, Missing on 9/11. But I love it. I absolutely love talking to them. I mean, I don't know where to start. That's something I could never do. Right?
No, like I
said, as interesting as it
is.
is.
Like I said, everybody wants to know the answer, but it takes a real special person to say, I'm going to be the one to find the answer, or at least try to find the answer. I couldn't do that.
He makes it sound so glamorous, too, when he's like, well, I pretty much worked nonstop for a year, then I collapse and nearly die.
Yeah, so, and then rent a house with my buds for a weekend, and then back to the grind.
Yeah, and I'll put that on the poll, too. Is it worth it to work nonstop for a year, collapse, die, but you get a house for a week?
No.
It's not.
No.
It's absolutely not. That is, oof. Yeah, I'd love to follow up with them towards the end of the season when they're done with that. I'd love to talk to John.
So a couple more episodes. You can get caught up. Missing on 9/11, missing in Alaska.
Yeah. Steve, should we recap the polls here before we end up getting out of here today?
Let's do that in 1 second. I'm still trying to figure out the buttons over here.
All the best and brightest have these same issues, though. It's not just, it's not just us.
No, not yet. Hold on. I got to wait for that to stop blinking. And then, okay, now, and...
Time to see how wrong everyone else is. It's poll recap time. Find the polls at Steve and Kyle on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
I'm not going back and cleaning that up either.
Just,
I'm not going to edit that at all.
Edit that in post.
No, because now we've mentioned it, so I'd have to edit this too.
Is it surprising that there were tech issues plaguing the show?
Oh, come on.
How fortuitous is that for a poll question?
See, the problem is I have to, because, never mind. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
83% of the audience said no. Yeah. It should not be surprising whatsoever. It does not sound seem like an NPR show.
Oh, man.
That'd actually be very good.
There was some Nat sound in Missing on 9/11.
Yeah, there was.
A little bit.
I sent you a clip of a different, and I'm not going to mention it because there's an equal chance I'll reach out to that guy and have him on the podcast. That should have been our go-to. I didn't ask John about that. We'll have to ask him that in the follow-up. Like, hey, what class did you go to?
Yeah.
That said you have to have a creaky car door, crunchy leaves under your feet, and then a knock on the door.
Yeah, and then a slightly off mic. Hey, I'm John. Good to meet you.
That's right. You think they have to record it multiple times? Like, no, I was too on mic there. So I now need to.
Yeah, I need to be way off mic.
You don't understand. It's important. It's in the class. 78% of the audience said yes, Nat Sound seems like an NPR show.
That sounds good.
And I believe, lastly, last week, is our audience filled with lawn mowing snobs? We had quite a fervor over the previous poll about how do you mow your lawn. I believe you had shamed Andrew Junk a couple of weeks ago because he had gone one direction. I forget if it was horizontal or vertical.
He went horizontal.
You had shamed him and called him poor, if I remember right.
That sounds about right.
He messaged us back. He had rectified that situation.
He made it right. He made it right. And I said, welcome to the winning team or something.
Just outstanding. 70. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, boy. Another runaway. 72% of the audience, Steve, said yes, our audience is filled with lawn mowing snobs. That's it for the polls. Again, you can find those on Facebook and Twitter at Steve and Kyle.
So next week,
another interview.
Another interview. Is this our new thing now? Is this our bit?
I don't have any more in the pipe. Not that these were very difficult, but it also helps that the two and presumably the third person that we're going to talk to next week have been very easy to talk to and communicate and plan this with. We're not working through any types of companies or PR people or anything. They're coming on, they're talking, as you heard, off the cuff, willing to have a fun and fun conversation and just be along for the ride, which very, very much helps what we do here.
Big thanks to John Walczak. Again, you can follow him at John Walczak. It's JONWALCZAK. He hosts Missing on 9/11. He was also the host of Missing in Alaska.
Didn't even get to ask him about the probably the creepiest postcard I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, Steve. I haven't gotten to that
You'll
yet.
Get to that. So many more things to ask John that I'd love to have him back on down the road.
All right. At Steve and Kyle, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got some new polls up there this week. And then we'll talk to you next week. That's it.
See
you got anything else? Hopefully this recorded.
Oh, God. It's going to be a shame.
FanDuel's getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus points if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is almost here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/betbig to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit CPG.org/chat in Connecticut. Or visit MDGamblingHelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit GamblingHelpLineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts. Or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPENY in New York.
Ready to buy a car, a home, or just want to take control of your money? Your FICO score matters, and 90% of top lenders use it to make decisions. Check your FICO score for free today without hurting your credit score. Visit myfico.com/free or download the MyFICO app today. MyFICO gives you the score lenders use most, plus credit reports and real-time alerts to help keep you on top of your credit. Visit myfico.com/free and take the mystery out of your FICO score.
Every 10 minutes, another name is added to the transplant waiting list. But one decision, your decision, can save up to 8 lives. Registering as an organ donor is easy, and it means everything to the families who are waiting, hoping, and holding on. Say yes to organ donation. Gift of Life Michigan is the state's nonprofit, federally designated organ and tissue donation program. Their diverse, collaborative team works to save lives through donation. Sign up at golm.org/signup and share your decision with ones you love.